a show.
Alright, so really good. So yeah, keep it started. Hi everybody. A quick reminder to click on the link in the description box below to donate to our COVID-19 crowdfunding campaign. So yeah, I'm Nomsita and this is the live Photoshop editing session. Today, this is how we're going to go about it. So I'm going to spin the wheel to decide what kind of style I have to edit the picture in, and then we're going to jump ahead and I'm going to walk you through my entire process of editing. I basically use Lightroom at times, but right now I'm sticking to Photoshop and a feature called Camera Raw in it. So yeah, let's get started. Alright, so it's time to spin the wheel to find out what style of edit I'm going to do for the first picture. Let's do it. Sounds pretty good. The first style that I have to edit my picture in is dreamy, which is kind of really good because that's my favorite style to edit my pictures in. So I just got lucky. So yeah, let's get started. Okay, so this is going to be the first picture that I'm going to edit. This is one picture that I recently clicked for a product shoot that I've been doing. Yeah, so let's get started. So first of all, I begin by doing basic corrections in my pictures. So if you see the white in the pictures are very prominent because of the sunlight that's shining onto my picture. So I like to bring them down first. So I'll just get the highlights down and you can see how it affects the picture. It makes it way more clearer because you can see the white parts more clearly now, and increasing the white actually ruins the picture. So we keep the whites down so that the details are still clear. Yeah. Then I'd like to increase the exposure a bit, obviously, because we want to give it a dreamy effect. So yeah, reducing the exposure will actually kind of make the picture dark and moody, which is not the style we're going for. So yeah, let's try around. So I think putting down the contrast actually makes it a little more dreamy than taking it up, because that just makes it very contrasty, and you can actually see a stark difference between the colors in the picture. That's not the look we're going for, but we're still going to increase it a bit. Yeah, I am going to increase the blacks because reducing it again gives it a very contrasty effect, which doesn't make sense for an effect which is more dreamlike. So I'll just increase it by a bit. And one thing to remember is that editing is a constant process of experimentation. So it's not like I sit down with every piece in my head, every move that I have to make. It's totally about getting creative, experimenting with stuff as much as you can. Now, since it's a dreamy look, I'd actually reduce the texture and the clarity, because if you can see, it makes it shine a little bit more, which is kind of the effect we're looking for. And dehaze, increase it actually, because I think dehazing it will make it very dreamlike, which just takes away from the product. That doesn't make any sense. Then I think I'm gonna make the picture more vibrant. So I think you can see the difference already. It looks way better, and these are just basic corrections. Then of course when you go and look more into the details, the sharper you make it, I think it takes away from the dreamy effect, because dreamlike pictures are not really sharp. They're more dreamlike, which means they're more blurred and they're unclear, and something that's not real, right? So yeah, I'll decrease the sharpening actually. Yep, looks pretty good up till now. This is one thing that I love to experiment with, is the color mixer, because it lets you literally control so many aspects of the image. Like you can actually just look at what it does to the image. You can actually control everything about the image. If I want to increase the saturation of yellows, I can do that. So just a quick rundown. Hue is basically the shade of the color. It's the shade of reds, oranges, yellows. So if you change around and play around with the hues, it changes the shade of the colors that are prominent or the colors that you're choosing. Then you have saturation, which of course increases the vibrance. It increases the intensity of the color, so it makes it more prominent. So you can see this is what saturation does. When you reduce the saturation, it goes more towards black and white. And see, now this is an outcome that I had not expected. This is an outcome that I had gotten for the first time, and I kind of like it, but I'm still going to stick to the yellows because I like warmer colors more. Yup. And then luminance is basically the brightness of each color. So if you increase it, it goes like this. If you decrease it, it goes like this. I think Color Mixer gives you a lot of scope to experiment and a lot of power to control the image that you're eventually going to produce. But for now, I think I love how it looks. It's pretty good. Not love maybe, but yeah, I like how it looks. Then let's get into how to get that dream effect, the blurred film vibe. So I'd seen this hack somewhere. What you can do is, I'm going to open my picture from Camera Raw. Every time you edit a CR2 file, which is the raw file of your camera, it opens automatically in the Camera Raw format. If your picture opens like this, then you can definitely go onto filter and then select Camera Raw filter, and then it takes you to the same window that we've been working on. Yeah. So to get the dreamy effect that we've all been wanting, we'll do is we'll basically just double tap the background layer and convert it into a layer. Like we'll unlock it and then copy and paste it onto the main layer, and then we'll go to filter and add a blur. And it doesn't have to be very strong because you can see what it does to the picture. So yeah, a very light blur that we're gonna add. And once that's done, you go and just press lighten. I don't know if you can see the effect yet, but if I show you how it acts now, you can see that dream-like effect coming in, right? You can see the light shining a lot, and that is basically what the dream-like effect is all about. So yeah, it depends on your personal choices. If you like more, if you want it to be more dreamy, keep increasing the blur. If you want it to be less dreamy, you can keep decreasing it. So it's really up to your personal choice. But I think I'll keep it a little less. I don't want to overdo it. So yeah, this is it. And we're done with the first picture. Congratulations. I think we can move on to the next one. Okay, so I just got back after taking a break from this, and I got myself some water because that's essential. And now it's time for another spin the wheel. So let's hit it. Again, it's retro. Okay, so we got retro as a choice, and again, I absolutely love all these retro filters and all these old kinds of effects. So I think we can get started. Let's look at what picture to choose though. Okay, so I'm going to take this picture that I had taken at a shoot for an event called Artistic. It's hosted by Akash sir. And also, quick addition, I'm going to play some nice music in the background because that helps me focus and everybody focus, and it's just good. So yeah, let's start by editing. So you can clearly see this is a very dark picture. So I think we'll start by increasing the exposure so things are a little more visible, and then of course decreasing the whites because you can see every white spot has these red things So let's decrease the whites and get the highlights down again as usual, because it just makes your light a little more clearer. So yeah, this is done. I think for a retro effect, so I'm trying to go for that disposable camera kind of a look also in the retro thing. And if you've noticed, you'll realize that the disposable cameras, especially like Kodaks and everything, they have this sort of greenish tint to them. So let's try and take it towards the greens a little, see what that does to the image. Okay, shifting it even a little makes me not like the picture, so keep it towards the pink. See, this is one thing about editing and just art in general. I think you get to learn a lot just by experimenting. There's no perfect formula for everything. Yeah. Let's see. We'll increase the vibrance a little and actually increase the saturation a little too. So now it comes to choosing the colors again. We're back at the color mixer. Let's see what colors we can choose to make it a little more retro. I think this orange, pulling down the oranges, makes it look a little more retro than it was before, at least. Oh, the first thing that you can do to make your things look retro, which is a common thing, I think everybody does that, is increase the grains. Obviously, old cameras have these noisy effects in them, which basically covered up for the bad quality. But now that we don't have bad quality cameras, I think we just stick and go back to stuff that makes us feel nostalgic. So let's increase the grain a bit. What else? See, so I won't say I'm an expert, of course I'm not. I'm still learning as well. And this is my chance to kind of dig into how to get a particular look and how to get that feel. I think we'll reduce the sharpening of the image, because that makes it a little worse than what I thought. Trying to look for the fade. Oh, we can add a vignette, maybe a little, a very little. And basically just experiment with a lot of stuff. I think I'm trying my best not to use any presets that are given in Photoshop and Lightroom, but guys, it's not wrong if you do. At times you can use them, so let's see if we can try and do something better with that. So there's this filter called Vintage Instant, and you can see how it makes your image look versus what it's looking now. So I think in this filter we can try to recreate it a little bit, and one thing that I can notice is the colors are not very saturated. So let's just try to get the vibrance down a little and get the saturation a little down maybe, and get it more towards the browns. So let's see. Yeah, I think if we decrease, okay, no. Let's increase the oranges and like decrease its luminance a bit. Gives a more retro vibe. Yeah, see, decreasing the yellows kind of gives it. Yeah, I think we're getting there. It looks a little better, a little more retro. I think I'm gonna shift from the reds. I think I'm gonna shift back. It's too orangish, which doesn't look nice, honestly. So let's see what we can do. Okay, so I'm gonna shift the blues. You can see how it's changing the blues in the background. I'm actually going to I'm going to pull the blues down so that these two colors match, and it just looks like a more cohesive, more thematic picture of oranges and blues. Let's see. If you pull down the pull down the saturations of the blues, how does it affect? Too much saturation again doesn't make any sense. Let's see. Okay. Can add some greens in the highlights. I think this gives it a more disposable camera effect. It definitely does that. And let's see what we can add to the shadows. So you can see what it's doing, right? It's quite evident. So we can make the shadows a little. Let's see. I don't think I'm going to touch the shadows a lot because it just doesn't look nice. Let's see. This picture versus this is definitely not what we were looking for. But I like the look of it. It's a different kind of, it gives me a different kind of retro vibe. We can definitely keep playing around with it until we're satisfied. So let me see. I think I'll give it a warmer tone. This looks a little better. Trying to get those warm tones in here. Yep. And actually increasing the contrast a bit. I honestly don't know if there is an option to change, to like add a fade or something in that. Let's look for it. Okay, I don't genuinely. I won't lie. I don't know where the option is. But that's okay. We're trying to figure something out here. And that's cool. Let's see. See, so I think with me, I never really sat down to learn Photoshop particularly. So with me, it's basically just experimenting until I find that right fit and until I'm satisfied. So just keep experimenting. I think right now the picture looks pretty retro to me. I don't know what you guys think, but looks a little retro to me. Let's see. Increasing the texture doesn't really make sense because that just makes it more can't remember the word, more defined. Yeah, it makes it more defined, so that's not what we're looking for at all. I genuinely don't know how to add a fade to this image, so let's just open and look if we can look for something in Photoshop itself. And it's time to charge my laptop. Okay, cool. Let's see. What can we do? I think we can add little dusts and scratches. Okay, that just made it way worse. But like, let's check and try this out a little. Okay, that just makes it bad for some reason, which is not good because what is happening to my picture? Never mind. Let's see what else can we do? Might take me a while to figure it out. Meanwhile, I'm trying not to look at anything, guys. So, yep, I'm trying to do stuff on my own this time instead of like directly looking stuff up on the internet and trying to make something out of myself. It's kind of a great challenge for me as well, and I think you guys should try it out because to like just open your laptops and just start editing with me. I think this overlay makes it look a little more retro than it did before, because it just added that kind of black layer, which made it kind of darker and more retro in general. Let's see. How do you add a fade? I'd suggest trying to experiment a little. Like, usually you can just go to Visco Cam, or you can use Lightroom, or you can just use presets, which is okay because they're made for a reason. But I think experimenting in such situations is key, because you actually really get to know what all you can do and just try to use your brains a little and to try to achieve the result that you really want. Let's see, what does this do? Okay, this is just weird. I'll keep it yellow. Yeah, let's see. This gives me a more retro effect. Let's try it with green. No, I don't like green. Go Panthers though, I love my house. I don't like this green. Yeah, this looks pretty retro to me. I don't know what you guys think, but I'm kind of satisfied with how retro it looks. Couldn't figure out how to add a fade though. I think I can try one last time. Let's try to exhaust our options. I'll try adding a gradient and maybe, I don't know. I really don't know what I'm doing right now. Let's see. Basics. Let's just go to black and white. And try to see. It's actually giving that film blur kind of thingy. I swear guys, I did not know it does that. It was just a random experiment that I was trying to do right now, and it's actually giving a really nice retro effect. So we can fix that later, but let's just choose the blending mode that looks the best. Let's try color burn and we'll fix it again. Okay, this is a lot, obviously. We'll stretch it from the top. Okay, wait. I think I'll have to fix the gradient that I'm using a little. Let's reduce the smoothness, and also let's reduce the opacity a little. You can keep zooming out and trying to get a greater range of your gradient, because if you keep it too close, it might actually ruin the picture. So see, we kind of got a weird film effect, retro film effect kind of thing, and we can play around with that and add more layers to it and bits to it. So I just copied my old layer and I'm trying to do something with the other layer. Let's see if there's something that can make it more retro. Okay, so let's go with this. I'll decrease the opacity for this one, because increasing it makes it weird. So we'll just decrease it and keep it like this. I think this looks pretty retro, guys. I don't know what you think of this, but the entire point of this workshop is to not a workshop. The entire point of this session is for me to try to edit stuff without using Google or YouTube or the presets that are available. So I think we did a pretty okay job with the retro filter. I feel this is kind of nice. Let me know what you think about this, and it's time for another spin the wheel now. Let's move on to our next picture. Okay, so now it's time for another spin the wheel. It's gonna go on for a while, so stick around if you want to see me experiment with different pictures in different styles. So let's hit it. So I got dreamy again. Obviously, we're not going to do that. Okay, so since I got a repeat edit, like a repeat style, I decided not to do the spin the wheel again and instead edit this picture that I'd recently shot. This is a picture, this is a product shoot that I'd done recently. So I'm just going to show what kind of look I wanted to give it, and let's just get into it. So of course, I think you've gotten a hang of it by now. The first thing that I do in all my pictures is get the highlights down a little bit. This picture doesn't really need a lot of highlights to be brought down because there's not a lot of light. There's no part of the picture that's very overexposed. This is what it would look like if it were overexposed, but it's not. So I think I'll put it down a little, and then let's see. Okay, so one thing that I love doing is increasing my shadows. Again, it makes things a little clearer, a little more visible, and the black parts of the pictures look just clearer. That's just something I like. I'll increase the contrast definitely. I don't want this to be one of those bland sorts of pictures. I want it to pop out, so definitely increase the contrast a bit. I don't think I'm going to touch the exposure, but let's try. See, no, I don't like it because it's too bright. This is too dark, and I think it's the perfect exposure the way it is. So I'll pull down the whites a little, just a tad, tiny bit, and increase the blacks because we already have a lot of contrast. Now I'm going to increase the dehaze a little again to give it a little more clarity, a little more definition, and just make it pop out a little more. Best thing, this is my favorite thing to do, increase the vibrance a little and increase the saturation a little because I just love pictures that are saturated. Yep. So let's go around and play with the color mixer. I think that's the best part of editing, trying to get to manipulate so many colors. So let's see. I don't want it to be red, but I want it a little towards the red, not towards the greenish tint. So I'd shifted a little there. Then of course, I just keep playing around usually just to check what doing what results in what. That's just something I do, and especially right now because we're just trying to do something on our own. I'm sorry. Yeah, so we also have greens in the picture. I don't want it to stand out a lot because it's just a bottle cap. So let's see. I'll kind of reduce the saturation, not too much, but not. Yeah, this is cool. And maybe okay, so yeah, decrease the luminance of the green shades, definitely increase a little of the orange because so increasing the orange's luminance basically compensates for decreasing the highlights and the whites in the beginning because it just adds a little more exposure and a little more brightness to the picture. Yeah. So one thing that is very important is to make sure that your picture is straight. I was recently told by a photographer who actually just came live, Varun Bhasin. Yeah, so he told me that my picture was a little tilted. So let's see how to fix that. Now, I think this is something that just comes with practice. You just develop an eye for composition. It's not really something, of course you can practice it by editing more and more, but I think it takes its time to get developed. I think I started photography when I was in 6th or 7th grade. Took me a while to get here, but here we are doing a pretty decent job, I must say. Not too good, but yeah, it's pretty okay. Uh, I think as long as I keep experimenting, I kind of like this reducing the yellows and getting this white shade, but I just don't know. I'm very confused, so I'll just keep it. I'll just stick to the yellows. Yep, okay. Definitely we can play around with a lot of this stuff again. I do not like greens, but that doesn't mean, again, I love the Panthers and I love my house, but greens in this picture, definitely not again. Okay, so I think I'm just gonna stick to like yellows and mid yellows and reds, because that's just what looks best. Just to add a little more color. Let's see. So one thing you can also do in Photoshop is like individually edit colors and whatnot. So suppose I want to make this, I want to make my bottle look brighter. What I can do is I can actually just go to my bottle, just a second. I can go here and actually use the paintbrush tool and start using it to make changes. So you can see you can actually just start. That was just an example. What you can do with it is it's a very powerful tool in my opinion. It's like you just get to do a lot of stuff. Yeah, so I'll increase the size a little, and so suppose I choose this part of my bottle. Now I get to individually control just this part of the bottle, which is pretty awesome in case you want to make changes to one particular thing in your image. Let's see, so I can reduce the contrast a little, actually increase it. Let's see how it looks zoomed out. So I think I'll increase the highlights and reduce the contrast a bit. I think it makes it a little more visible, and then increase the shadows again because that makes it more visible. Just keep the whites the same, honestly, a little, tweak it a little maybe, but not too much, and decrease the blacks a little because I think it just makes it, again, it makes it more readable and it makes it clearer, which just eventually makes it look better. And again, texture does the same thing. So you can see the comparison. Let's just look at this. Went from this to this, which I think is pretty good. I'm satisfied. Of course, I can never be fully satisfied because imposter syndrome, everyone out there into arts or literally anything can relate to that, I'm sure. So yeah, we're done with another picture. Congratulations. Let's move on to the next one if we can. I'll just be back in 2 minutes. Okay, so I think I'm done doing I'm done with the spin the wheel thing, because now I just want to do something on my own. So I'm actually going to start editing like 3-4 more pics, but I'm going to do it from my style. And also I'm just going to play some better songs now because I'm done with the lo-fi hip-hop thing. Cool, okay, let's begin. Okay, I'm just trying to look for the song that I wanted to play. Yep, okay. Let's go. Let's begin. So this picture again. Now there's an obvious thing that I'd want to remove out of this picture. It's that weird wire in the background. So I'll just crop it out because I don't really need it anymore in the picture, and this composition just looks fine without it. So that's okay. Annoying YouTube ads. Yep. So, right. Now, honestly, I've actually edited this picture before, and like I've really good edit out of this, and right now it just looks really bland. So, of course, first thing I do, pull down the highlights a little, take up the shadows a little. Let's see. So you can see the difference. It just takes care of the different dark and bright parts of the image. Yep. Increase the contrast a little because that just makes it stand out a little more. I'm not going to increase the exposure by a lot because, vibrance 100%, saturation 100%. I'm a big fan of vibrance and saturation because I love bright colors. So that's just my style. If you don't, you can definitely go ahead and decrease it. Yeah, so this is just a very, very basic correction thing that I think everybody does in the beginning. Then you move on to the colors and then you edit them individually, which is, like I said, my favorite part. So I love turquoise, I love aqua, I love blues, light blues instead of like. So I'm actually going to shift the color towards that. You can see how it changes, right? So I don't like the purplish blue, I like more of the aqua blue. So I'll actually shift it towards that. And this is a very famous editing combination, the teal and orange combination, right? Like you must have heard in a lot of places and you must have seen a lot of edits. Yep, so it's a very famous editing combination. Okay, I'm gonna switch from so now it's time to switch from lo-fi hip-hop to rock music. If you like rock music, huge shout out to you because it's just the best kind of music, honestly. No, I don't really care. I don't discriminate between the genres of music, but rock's still the best. So yeah. So getting back to that, teal and orange is a very famous combination. I don't know how many of you heard of it, but yes. So I'm actually going to increase the oranges a little, but not enough to make her legs look weird, because that just looks bad, right? So yeah, so that's the first thing I'll do. And let's see, I'll decrease the yellows because you can see her legs look, her feet look a little more natural that way, right? Yeah, so let's do that. Reds. So see, you don't want to oversaturate these reds. They just look weird then. So you keep it yeah. It's cool. Aquas, definitely saturate them a little, not too much. Too much, if anything, is never good. So yeah. Aqua, I think I'll keep the luminance in the middle. It just doesn't make sense for me to increase it. Oranges, I think I'll decrease it by a little. Again, you can see how much it defines it. Like I wouldn't want this kind of picture. I'd rather like something more like this, a little more visible, a little more defined. I think I'll go back and increase my highlights a little. Yep, starting to look good. Decrease the blacks a little, definitely. I'll make it warmer 100%. I love warm shades. Yep, so this looks a little good. Not pinker, no way. We'll keep it the same. But yeah, since I've made it warmer, I think I'm gonna go down and change my aquas again a little because I think that got affected. The songs from this band called Greta Van Fleet, it's a really good band. I think you should all try and give it a listen. Yup, I will decrease the contrast a little though, and maybe increase the texture. No, I don't like the texture, it's really too high. Yup, increase the saturation by points. So I think this looks pretty good if you compare it to what the picture was actually. We went from this to this. It's pretty great. So yeah, another picture done. Hope you guys are actually learning something out of this and trying to implement something to your own editing style maybe, or trying out new stuff, because the key to all of this is just experimentation. I keep saying this a lot, but it's very true. You learn more by experimenting than you do by anything else. So just keep trying stuff, and not most, but a lot of the good stuff that you do, it's very accidental. You'll just stumble upon an effect that you really like, or you'll just stumble upon a random edit that you'd made, a random slider that you dragged uh, a lot, and it just ended up looking really good. So yeah, just keep experimenting, and we'll get back to the next picture in a while. Okay. Okay, so I think this is going to be the last picture that we're going to be editing, probably. So, yeah, I'm just going to take a picture that I clicked of JKK, that's Jawahar Kala Kendra, in case you didn't know that. So, yeah, it's a picture that I clicked a while back, and I'm going to start editing this and just get it to pop out. I think I edit a particular way, a particular style, in a particular way and style. So if you like it, stick around. Feel free to stick around. Okay. So I'm first going to increase the exposure, definitely. I think you've probably gotten a hang of the stuff that I do right when I open, like as soon as I open my pictures. So I'm reducing the blacks this time just to make sure that it doesn't look too faded, and there's a lot of clarity in the colors and just the blacks here as well. Like it's all a little clearer. Again, increase the vibrance a little, increase the saturation a little, decrease the texture, decrease the clarity. I just like it to be a little dreamy. So that's a few things that I touch when I really want it to not have a very contrasty effect. So let's see what we can do with the reds. Of course, now hue changes the shade of the color. I don't want it to be pink. I don't want it to be orange, because JKK is basically the brick red color. So I'm actually going to just increase the saturation for the red till a point where it looks natural but also not too bland. I'm actually going to increase the luminance because it just makes it brighter, which to me is at least better. Then of course I have my leaves. So there are two prominent colors in this. They're both complementary colors, red and green. So we're going to experiment a little with green shades. I don't want it to be this kind of green, or want it to be a bland yellowish kind of a green. So we're not going to touch the hues a lot, but I'm definitely going to increase the saturation a little. And of course the luminance, I can reduce it because that makes it look a little better, gives the image a little depth. Now it still seems really, I don't know, it seems very cloudy and bland to me, so I'm going to increase the saturation a little and the shadows by a lot, just because I really like bright images, because they're just happier in general, at least that's what I think. And yeah. So I think decrease the blacks a little to make it a little more contrasty. We can definitely experiment with the highlights and shadows thing again, but I don't think we should because it just doesn't make sense to do that a lot. So this is what the shadows option does here with the. I'm actually going to try to just stick to the reds only because the feed of JKK, like the main color of JKK is the red, the prominent red there. And I definitely, usually in the pictures that I edit, I definitely just make the temperature a little warmer. That's how I like it. Some people like it colder. Some people like to give it more white shades. I like to give my pictures a little more yellow shades. It feels like a more optimistic choice, a more optimistic color, a more happy color. That's the kind of edits I like to do. So yeah, this is basically it. I'm happy with this picture. Maybe I'll touch the luminance of the greens a little because it looks a little weird here. So maybe a little. Let's see what looks nice. Too dark, too bright, of course. This seems pretty okay. Yeah. So again, let's look at the difference between this. 3, 2, 1. This is what the picture is like. Pretty impressed I am with myself. But we'll stay grounded. It's not too good, but it's pretty good. I like it. I like how it looks. Again, if I want to make it more dreamy, we'll open the image in Photoshop and just do that simple hack that we done. Double press the background layer to make it converted, like unlock the layer and convert it to layer 0. Copy paste it, Command C, Command V. Then you go to blur and add this. Blur, add it to as much extent, like as much magnitude, as much radius as you want it to be. And then we go to this and go to lighten. Okay, so right now it doesn't really make a big difference. So let's try and experiment with it. Okay, this actually does. And I think I've always loved these kinds of edits and see how much more dreamy this pictures become. So yeah, this is the end result. A quick reminder to click on the link in the description box below to donate to our COVID-19 crowdfunding campaign.